missing? Where's Eli?
Right here.
Kelly, where's Kelly?
Oh,
It's okay.
yeah, it's okay.
This is a song written by Swami Kriyananda, the founder of Ananda. It's entitled Cherish These. Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's dearth, selfless friendship, blameless birth? Cherish these, naught else has worth. Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's dearth, selfless friendship, blameless birth? Cherish these, naught else has worth. Sing with us on the song. Is there anywhere on earth perfect freedom, sorrow's dearth, selfless friendship, blameless birth? Cherish these, naught else has worth.
Thanks, Ron. We'll do a chant now. This is one of Yogananda's chants on the Divine Mother. He actually wrote it right out here in Palm Desert. It's called I Give Thee My Soul Call. I'm not sure what page it's on in the book, but it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, this deep meditation and deep ecstasy with Divine Mother felt inspired to write this chant.
Number 8. 8.
breath and tend your body. Exhale, relax. Again, tend until your whole body vibrates. Feel the breath and relax. One more time. Relax completely. Scan your body, feel for any places of tension. Offer them up to the point between the eyebrows. Imagine a fire there that you're offering up any limitations, any negativity, anything that's holding you back into that fire of spirit. We'll meditate together for about 10 minutes or so. You can practice any techniques of meditation you know, or just focus on your breathing and focus on drawing the energy up the spine to the Christ center, the point between the eyebrows. words on devotion, which is our affirmation for this week. No good end is ever reached without devotion. No true success is achieved unless the heart's feelings are involved. Willpower itself is a combination of energy and feeling directed toward fulfillment. In the quest for God, the unfolding of the heart's natural love in the form of deep devotion is the prime requisite for success. Without devotion, not a single step can be taken towards Him. Devotion is no sentiment. It is the deep longing to commune with and know the only reality there is. So now we'll affirm together, first out loud in a strong voice, and then we'll gradually take it deeper inside. With the sword of devotion.
With the sword of devotion.
I sever the heartstrings.
I sever the heartstrings.
That tie me to delusion.
That tie me to delusion.
With the deepest love.
With the deepest love.
I lay my heart.
I lay my heart.
At the feet of omnipresence.
At the feet of omnipresence.
With the sword of devotion.
With the sword of devotion.
I sever the heartstrings.
I sever the heartstrings.
That tie me to delusion.
That tie me to delusion.
With the deepest love.
With the deepest love.
I lay my heart.
I lay my heart.
At the feet of omnipresence.
At the feet of omnipresence.
And now more quietly, with the sword of devotion.
With the sword of devotion.
I sever the heartstrings.
I sever the heartstrings.
That tie me to delusion.
That tie me to delusion.
With the deepest love.
With the deepest love.
I lay my heart.
I lay my heart.
At the feet of omnipresence.
At the feet of omnipresence.
And now in a whisper, with the sword of devotion.
With the sword of devotion.
I sever the heartstrings.
I sever the heartstrings.
That tie me to delusion.
That tie me to delusion.
With the deepest love. I lay my heart. At the feet of omnipresence. And now silently, with deep focus and concentration at the point between the eyebrows, broadcast this affirmation. With the sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion. With the deepest love, I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence. With the sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion. With the deepest love, I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence. And please pray silently with me. Beloved Father, Mother God, I am thine alone. Let others seek thee or seek thee not. It matters not to my love for thee. Through all life's trials, my prayer is this alone. Reveal thyself. Om, peace. We won't bother with that. So, good morning. Hi.
Good morning.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's so great to, I've been gone for the past 5 weeks, so it's wonderful to be back with all of you. And great to see.
There might be some new people who don't know you. What is your name?
I'm sorry, I'm Darby. This is my husband, Ariane. Thank you, Ron.
We pay him $20 to say that.
Yeah. This week we're on By Thinking Can We Arrive at Understanding? I'm reading from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita by Swami Ananda. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. There are many places in the Gospels where we see Jesus in open conflict with the Pharisees. That is to say, with man-made as opposed to true mystical tradition. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 15, we see a good example of how they and he locked horns. Then some of the scribes and Pharisees from Jerusalem came and asked Jesus, "Why do your disciples break our ancient traditions and eat their food without washing their hands properly first?" Jesus, after scolding them for their hypocrisy and observing lesser rules so carefully, while ignoring the much more important ones, said, "Listen and understand this thoroughly. It is not what goes into a man's mouth that makes him common or unclean. It is what comes out of a man's mouth that makes him unclean." It wasn't that Jesus counseled against such wholesome practices as washing one's hands before eating. In an age, however, when lesser rules were given too much importance relative to the truly important observances, cleansing the heart of impure desires, for example, he emphasized the supreme importance of loving God and of communing with him. The Pharisees, the orthodox religionists of his day, in other words, had brought true religion down to a level of intellectual hair-splitting. They mistakenly considered the way to understanding to lie through a minefield of definitions, which they tried to refine to ultimate exactitude. Jesus taught, however, that the intellect alone can never lead one to truth. Without love, indeed, there is no ultimate verity. Without fixity of purpose, born of the heart's devotion, the intellect wanders endlessly. It cannot settle for long on anything. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the 2nd chapter, the intellects of those who lack fixity of spiritual purpose are inconstant, their interests endlessly ramified. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning, everyone, as well. I was reminded of this story. I used to work in New York, and Mr. Armadale was reading that. I remembered something that happened to me. I used to take the bus from New Jersey into New York City every day. You would pack in like sardines, and as soon as a bus gets filled, then the next bus rolls through and just ship you off. And so I was one of the last people right before this bus was about to be filled, and there was the conductor there that sort of counted the number of people onto the bus. And it just got filled, and there was one lady in front of me and then me, and then we had to wait for the next bus. And the lady was a little bit agitated. She's like, "I want to get on the bus. I want to get on." He said, "Relax, relax, relax!" I was like, wow. I was like, that's one way to definitely relax. He wasn't emanating relaxation at that moment. That also reminds me when Swami was in Italy, and he didn't speak Italian. Kashi Raja, for you. And there was a man translating for him, and Swami was doing like a visualization. Feel the peace. Sente la pace. And then Swami said, I must learn this language. Because there's something much greater to communication than our words, right? It's our feeling, it's our consciousness, the vibration that's behind that, that's much more deep and moving. And so this reading today, can we gain understanding through the intellect? By thinking, can we gain understanding? And on one level, it's yes, you can. Yes, you can gain understanding in terms of the conscious mind in the world of the intellect. You can make certain intellectual decisions and how you want to plot and plan. But in another sense, you can't really gain superconscious enlightenment and intuition that will really lead you to your next step on whatever your journey is. I was
again, I think this is, when I was growing up, I got into some mischief, and it was probably more than mischief, but we'll leave it at that. And my father was reprimanding me. You know, I came from, you know, this Italian family. My dad like sounded like Donnie Brasco, like he had this really like deep. He's like, Philip. He's like, son, you're in left field here. I'm trying to get you into center. And I never forgot that. But there's always this, you know, the intellect will take us a little bit close, but in order to fully get centered and feel that touch of spirit within us, we have to meditate and have that direct contact and experience of God within us. And that's the only way that we can really find out what the answer for us is in any given moment, and when we come across big decisions as well in our lives. One way that Yogananda talked about this, that I wanted to share in autobiography, when we talk about, you know, the practice of meditation. We've all heard, probably most of us, about the path of Kriya Yoga. But he talks, this is a really interesting passage here, the difference between introspection, you know, intellectualizing, thinking about things, versus direct experience. And this is in the chapter on the science of Kriya Yoga. Introspection, or sitting in silence, is an unscientific way of trying to force apart the mind and senses, tied together by the life force. The contemplative mind, attempting its return to divinity, is constantly dragged back toward the senses by the life currents. Kriya, controlling the mind directly through the life force, is the easiest, most effective, and most scientific avenue of approach to the infinite, in contrast to the slow, uncertain bullock cart theological path to God. Kriya may justly be called the airplane route. So he's talking here about actual contact, right? And we can think about these things, but our mind is always drawn back to the senses by the life force that God has charged us with. It's just the way this world, God bless you, works. So in order to reverse that searchlight, we have to, what are the prerequisites to have that direct perception? It's that we have to love God, like the reading was telling us today, devotion being the most important thing. But then Yogananda also talked about how it's Kriya Yoga plus devotion will lead to self-realization. He said it's like spiritual mathematics. It works because it gives us a way, it gives us that avenue. And what is that avenue? It is the spine and the brain. Those are the altars of God. And how do we proceed? We proceed through our heartfelt devotion by giving a sincere prayer. I mean, sincerity, devotion, and humility. So these are the three standards of self-realization. And in the Gita, what does Arjuna say to Krishna? He says, I can't do this. I cannot fight this. Because he's fighting his own kinsmen, his own brothers and sisters, his own cousins. His brothers are the Pandavas. They're the forces of light. But he's saying, I can't take part in this battle. And he slumps. And his bow is representative of the spine. And what happened? And he's devotee everyman. He's you, he's me, he's us. And we all have that experience where you're buffeted, you're shattered. I mean, life beats you up. And it will beat you up until, you know, it's not like a Rocky Balboa where you're going to go 15 rounds and say, like, you know, I don't want a rematch. But you're going to get a rematch because you've got to get out of this cycle of delusion. And the only way out is to say, I want out, and I can't do it on my own. I need help. And so that's the heart's sincere yearning and sincere call. And then when we get really serious, then the guru comes. And then he bestows upon us his grace. And his grace is facilitated through the science and art of Kriya Yoga. And I don't mean to be the sectarian, that this is the, you know, it's not the path. It is just the universal pathway of our own nervous system. The brain as well is engineered for divinity. We're the only species, human beings, that have these prefrontal lobes of the brain. And we're right at that event horizon, right between the smallest microcosm and the most infinite and God. And we're right at that event horizon. So we're the only species that can actually have that realization in ourselves. And we're actually designed for that. And it's good to remember that, like daily, moment to moment. And when we do come up against those challenges, it's okay. We can then come back to our practice. We can come back to reversing the searchlight, bringing it in and up in inner daily communion, and then taking that feeling and sharing it consciously and silently, just as we go about our day. So I wanted to close with just a couple other stories that I forgot to share here. One other inspirational quote from Sri Yukteswar. You remember this one from Autobiography. Forget the past. Forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until anchored in the divine. That's that one sentence that stood out to me for this reading today. Human conduct is ever unreliable. It was the last line, that the intellect, his interests, his interests are endlessly ramified. So you just go about your whims and fancies and you keep trying your things and you just get endless ramifications from that. Human conduct is ever unreliable until anchored in the divine. Everything in future will improve, Sri Yukteswar said, if you're making a spiritual effort now. And that's all we have to worry about. And we are making a spiritual effort. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now. And the other story that I wanted to share, or quote here, is this idea that Swami and Master talked about this, that your reason, your intellect, follows your feeling. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe you don't think about it, maybe you feel about it. Your intellect, reason follows feeling. So when you're in a bad mood, you have every single reason why the world is horrible, and why every person is out to get you, and why, Johnny didn't get you some flowers this week and whatnot. But when your feeling is right, then your intellect is purified. Right? There's that saying in Autobiography, wherever there is a yogi with pure devotion and pure wisdom. So it's when the devotion comes, then your mind is enlightened. And this fixity of spiritual purpose, this was in the reading today too. There's all these books that have come out on success. Napoleon Hill, back in the day, and they talk about definiteness of purpose. How about the definite purpose of what is our purpose of finding God? And when we come back to that single soul purpose of why we're here, then everything else falls into place. I was also reminded of this, I think it's a bumper sticker, I'm not sure, from this reading today. When we take certain things out of context, and the intellect can sort of run with things, like we were saying. The prayer is, Dear Lord, please save me from your followers. because that's the flip side of it. When we take things to an extreme and we get fanatical about them, and then it has to be, my way or the highway. And that's not what these teachings are about at all. Yogananda's teachings, this path of self-realization is a universal, non-sectarian approach for anyone of any background, of any faith, of any creed. As Bhagavati said, Yogananda's father, go to the West and be an ambassador for Lahiri. Take those creedless teachings of Kriya Yoga and share them freely in the West. And this has been to our great benefit. So I would love to encourage you that if you don't already have a meditation practice, to pick it up. We actually have a class starting, I think, in a couple weeks. If you're interested in Kriya Yoga and just learning more about that, please let us know. That it's our joy to share these teachings, because it's not a teaching, it's an experience, and it's a shared experience, and that's our journey towards self-realization. We'll have our offertory.
Please take out what you'd like to offer and place it in your right hand, and please pray together with me. Divine Mother, we come to Thee, offering the fruit of our labor. Bless this offering, for we are your children. That it may serve as a channel of Thy light, to truth, seeking souls everywhere.
I'd like to share a song by Swami Kriyananda, and this is entitled Mother of Us All. All your children, Mother, call you, knowing not it's you they call. Some through mists of their unknowing, bruised and hurting when they fall. Turn away, but who can leave you? You, the mother of us all. If the child forsake its mother, will she coldly turn away? Wise or foolish, we're your children. Guide us, Mother, if we stray. Those whose hearts are torn with anguish lack the power your name to call. Heal their wounds, Ma, soothe their sorrows. You, the mother of us all. Heal their wounds, Ma, soothe their sorrows. You, the mother of us all. Sing with me this phrase. Heal their wounds, Ma, soothe their sorrows. You, the mother of us all.
Thank you, Ron.
Just have a few announcements, and then we'll have our Festival of Light. This